said that our diversity is our strength is the single dumbest phrase in military history.
And words
because
are important.
Our unity is our strength. And
words.
So unity amongst members, despite differences of backgrounds, race, whatever that is.
And I agree with you on that.
Together on a mission.
Welcome back to React America, the channel where truth, tradition, and toughness still matter. If you're tired of political doublespeak and looking for a clear-eyed commentary rooted in American values, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into a recent exchange between Congressman Jason Crow and Secretary Pete Hegseth, a conversation that's being spun by the media, but one that exposes something far deeper about the politicization of our military and what's really at stake for America's future. Before we begin, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We need strong voices like yours to keep the truth alive. Now let's break this down.
Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Crow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Kane, Secretary Hegseth, and Mrs. McDonald. You're doing a great job today, Mrs. McDonald. Secretary Hegseth, we have a lot of things in common. In fact, our careers started the same way. We were both infantry officers. We were both platoon leaders. We both deployed our platoons to combat in a counterinsurgency environment. There are very few better leadership training grounds in that experience, and it's that experience that I want to transport us back into time, back to Lieutenant Hegseth and Lieutenant Crow. There are a lot of things that make a leader and that make a unit effective. Would you say that unit cohesion is important?
Unit cohesion amongst many is very important, yes.
It's an important element. And part of that is making sure that all members of your unit felt included in that team, correct?
Far more important that every member of that unit felt capable to do the mission and united in that mission.
But that they were included and felt part of the team as well.
I wouldn't use the word inclusion, sir, but yes, they were cohering as a team, yes.
And that you reduce tension and infighting and points of tension between your platoon members that you can focus on the mission. That was a part of the regular job.
Both Crow and Hegseth started as infantry platoon leaders, boots on the ground, combat-tested, brothers in arms. But that's where the similarities end. Crow's using that shared experience to lecture Hegseth, not to unite, but to shame. Why? Because Hegseth refuses to toe the new military woke line. He believes in cohesion, not forced inclusion, in shared mission, not identity checklists. And that, folks, is now controversial.
Absolutely. That's why I've said that our diversity is our strength is the single dumbest phrase in military history.
And words are important.
Our unity is our strength. And
words.
So unity amongst members, despite differences of backgrounds, race, whatever that is.
And I agree with you on that.
Together on a mission.
And words, part of that is words are important and setting the tone is important, correct?
Crow tries to paint inclusion as the pillar of military strength. Hegseth, a man who's led troops into battle, responds with something the left can't digest. Unity doesn't mean uniformity. It means knowing your mission, trusting your team, and winning, period. When you're in the dirt under fire, you don't care about someone's pronouns. You care about whether they can watch your six.
When you're a leader.
All aspects of leadership, mostly leading by example.
Did you ever tell them your political affiliation? Did you ever tell your platoon members your political affiliation?
We certainly discussed lots of topics, and I'm sure my political affiliation.
Did you ever ask them theirs?
No, their political affiliation was never a concern to me.
Because it's important that everybody feel included and that people weren't excluded, correct? That would be
my
antithetical to leadership.
I'm sure my platoon contained Republicans, Democrats, and independents, and I had no idea what their affiliation was.
Okay, that was actually my next question, so I appreciate you answering that.
Crow says he never asked his troops about their political affiliation. Good. That's how it should be. But here's the irony. Today's Democrats are politicizing the military at every level, from DI quotas to CRT training, to pressuring service members on social issues. And when Hegseth calls that out, he's the problem? That's backward.
You led your unit in a counterinsurgency environment and you interacted with civilians, correct?
interacted with members of the civilian population, sure.
Yeah. And you were, in fact, a COIN instructor, a counterinsurgency instructor, correct?
In Afghanistan in 2011 and 2012, I was the senior counterinsurgency instructor.
And you signed off on a manual. There's actually a counterinsurgency manual that you signed off on and helped create. And your name's on that manual, correct?
We were a part of creating a lot of content at the COIN Academy, yes.
Do you remember this portion of the manual? It says if you've killed 2 innocents, you've set yourself back more than you've moved forward. Do you still agree with that?
I would have to take a look at the manual, but obviously no one in warfare is seeking to kill innocents.
Okay. Because it's important to show why we're different from the enemy. Because we're not the enemy, right? We're different from our adversary. Would you agree with that? We have different morals and different values.
We are not the enemy, sir.
We have different morals and we have different values than the enemy.
Both men agree. In counterinsurgency, how you treat civilians matters. But here's where it gets disturbing. Crow pushes Hegseth to say we're different than ISIS and Al-Qaeda, as if that's a hard question. This isn't nuance, it's moral relativism. And the fact that this even needed debate shows how far left logic has corroded basic moral clarity. We are not the enemy. We are America. We fight with discipline, purpose, and justice.
We have a code, a uniform code of military justice.
So the answer to that is
inside our
yes.
formations that
You're not trying to compare us to Al-Qaeda and ISIS, are you? We're different.
I know the code of the United States military and army that I signed
You
up for.
can't tell me whether we're different?
Right hand.
You're not willing to say we're
Of course,
different?
we're different.
Okay, thank you.
It's absurd.
That's why I'm trying to reconcile the fact that we learned many of the same lessons as platoon leaders about cohesion, making sure that people were included, that we didn't ask people's political affiliation, that we interacted respectfully with civilian populations, that what a leader says matters, that the tone you set matters, that we are not the enemy, that we are different from them, we lead differently, we have different morals.
Crow insists that words matter. On this we agree, but what he's really saying is, say our words or else. They want to control the language, because controlling the language controls the narrative. Diversity is our strength becomes a mantra, even when it's meaningless in combat. Hegseth rightly calls it the dumbest phrase in military history. It's unity that wins battles, not slogans.
How can I reconcile that experience and those lessons learned from Lieutenant Hegseth to now Secretary Hegseth, where you say things like what you just saw here, making us equivalent on the same standards as our adversaries, doing the same things that ISIS and Al-Qaeda would do? How can you possibly reconcile that? I can't. And just the other day down at Fort Bragg in our beloved 82nd Airborne Division,
Crow lashes out at what happened at Fort Bragg. Paratroopers booing politicians they don't agree with. Guess what? That's called freedom of expression. But when the boots on the ground start reacting politicians, maybe the issue isn't the troops, it's the politicians. Maybe they're tired of being pawns in a social experiment they never signed up for.
sitting there while we politicize the military and pull our paratroopers into politics, booing elected officials, booing politicians with whom you disagree.
Crow closes with moral outrage, painting Hegseth as someone who's betrayed the values they once shared. But here's the truth. Hegseth hasn't changed. The mission has, the culture has, and instead of real leadership, we now have leaders lecturing veterans for speaking out. This isn't about right versus left. It's about preserving the soul of our military before it's replaced with politics, pageantry, and performative wokeness.
It's antithetical to our values, and you, sir,
Gentlemen,
have changed.
time's expired.
At React America, we believe in truth over narrative, discipline over division, and America over ideology. Secretary Hegseth is right to call out what's happening. Our military isn't just a jobs program. It's a sacred institution, and we need leaders willing to defend it from the inside out. So ask yourself, are we training warriors or are we grooming activists? Like, share and subscribe if you believe in standing for the flag, defending truth, and pushing back against the corruption of core American values. This is React America, where we say what others won't.